guys, and welcome to tonight's Soul Wellbeing session with me. I've decided to relabel this the Conscious Mystic because I had an epiphany one day that said, people often ask me, "What do you do?" or like, "What is it that you like? What does it mean to be a psychic?" And I thought, and one day somebody said, somebody close to me called me a mystic, and I looked it up, and it describes perfectly my mission and how I feel. And a mystic is somebody who follows or has had an experience of that deeper connection to the spirit world. And once you've had that feeling or had that experience, it's something that you can't disconnect from. It is not something that happens for a long period of time. Sometimes it can happen in a flash, but having that mystic experience, that high energy experience, is something that once you've touched it and it touches your life, then it doesn't go away. So, hence, the conscious mystic was born. So, because we're doing this consciously and we're achieving that or heading that way consciously, I thought that would be a nice title from now on. So, tonight we're looking at overwhelm. Now, as you saw in the little graphic that went with this, like the pre-advertising for this talk today, actually, I'll just pop it up on my thing. Just bear with me. So we're going to talk about overwhelm and what it means and what we can do. Sorry, just bear with me. And I apologize about this. I wasn't prepared. I didn't have it. Okay, here we go. Sending it so that I can put it up on screen. So there we go. Now, overwhelm, what does it mean? Overwhelm is something that when you're an empath, I suppose looking at it, when you're an empath and you are connected to all of the thoughts and feelings of the world, when you are totally surrounded by the constant stimulation of other people's energy, you can become overwhelmed. You can become, it's very difficult to discern where you start and where other people finish, sort of thing. So, feeling and doing this type of soul work or doing this type of spiritual work and feeling overwhelmed goes hand in hand. And oftentimes it goes in also with uh, people who suffer from anxiety, because with that anxiety, it it comes on when you're not even sure why you're anxious. I myself have had varying degrees of experience with this simply because I can be, when I'm feeling on top of things and when I'm feeling quite strong in myself, I can be detached from people around me and situations around me. I can go and be in large crowds. I can go to music festivals and I'm able to cut off myself from all of the many personalities around me. What personally I struggle with when it comes to overwhelm and empathy is when it's people close to me. So when people close to me are experiencing high emotions, then I tend to experience that along with them, not even realizing that that's something that um, like it catches me before I even realize that it's happening. It's simply because I think on an energetic level, this is my take on it. Just on reflection on myself, is that on an energetic level, I pick up the cues, the um, simple cues, or the non visual, even the non vocal cues. You can pick up on the energy shifts and changes around you, and all of a sudden, you are on high alert. Just going to say hi to Connie. Hi, Connie. So, all of a sudden, when you are in that space, for myself, I find that I'm already in the anxious zone before I realize that uh, those around me, those close around me, are affecting my emotional state. So then it takes a lot to wind that back. Now, that only ever happens when I am feeling in I guess, a low space in myself. So this is why always maintain that self-care is so important, and self-awareness is such an important thing. And even though I talk about it, I practice it, I still fall behind in that self-care regime. So when it comes to overwhelm, what do you do to, well, first of all, talk about how to prevent it, and then we're going to talk about what to do when it actually is upon you. Now, these aren't surefire. It's going to get rid of everything, but these are things that you can try to wind back control when you feel like that you've lost control. So, first of all, to prevent overwhelm, it requires a level of awareness of yourself. So, when you start to over your life, as you reflect and look back when you have been overwhelmed, it's really very not important, but it's really helpful if you can reflect and see where these things have happened to you in your life. And when you can see the cues that would um, give you little hints that that overwhelm is starting to happen, you can sort of almost nip it in the bud. So these are the strategies that you can do to help raise your awareness or keep that hypersensitivity in some sort of check, so that you can use it for to be helpful rather than have it um, crash in on you and overwhelm you way before you're aware of it. In other words, using your hypersensitivity for your good, rather than using it to crush you when all of a sudden it's out of like almost out of control. It's never out of control so much that you can't rein it back in, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others. So when we're looking at strategies for, I suppose, managing it or preventing it, as I mentioned, self-reflection about when you get triggered with overwhelm is a good way, so that you can remember when those things start to happen again, you can nip it in the bud. Other things that you can do are regular meditation. I always think 20 minutes of meditation, if you can, a day would be great, but not everybody has time to do 20 minutes, especially in these busy days. The other thing, you can, at least if you can do 5 to 10 minutes a day of connection to the self, really is quite helpful. When you do those little meditation practices and on a regular basis, you become super aware of when your own intuition or your own body energy shifts. You can tell when when you're all of a sudden on high alert, and you can start to um, pull all that energy back in, so that you're not constantly searching. The other thing that, like meditation is a good thing. The other thing that you can do is like a distraction. So these are all strategies to prevent the overwhelm. We're going to talk about how to manage it once you're in it in a minute, but this is to prevent when you can start to feel that happening or coming on, because you're aware of it by doing those little meditations every day. You can do some distraction. You can go and divert your attention by, you can take off, if you enjoy walking in nature, go walk in nature. If you're doing something that you enjoy that's going to distract you from the moment where you become aware that this is actually happening, removing yourself from the situation that's creating that overwhelm or that potential overwhelm, the beginning of it. Sometimes that's not always possible, but definitely if you're in a big room or somewhere where you can't immediately remove yourself, having something to distract you in that moment, easy to pick up the phone and start looking at something that you enjoy. You might enjoy playing a little game, or you might enjoy looking at Facebook or something to distract you from that moment, because that'll take your attention away. I always like when I look at my social media, I love to look at the cute animals. They really distract me, the animal stories. So they're nice things that make me feel good about myself. And I guess there are things, if you want to distract yourself in that moment, things that bring you joy. It could be pictures of your family that you love as well. Anything that's going to take you away from that moment. The other thing that you can do is talk to somebody. And so, and again, we're talking about strategies to do in the moment that you realize that the overwhelm is happening. You can bring somebody on board to say, hey, this is happening to me right now, and they can be your support in the moment. So those are some of the little things that you can do when you notice that it's coming on. But what happens when you're in the middle of it and all of a sudden it can be a slow build or a slow burn? What do you do when all of a sudden you realize and you're in the middle of that overwhelm, and it's going to take a lot to wind that back. Wow, that in itself requires a lot of self, I guess, self work, or a lot of attention to the self. So, number one, once you're in the middle of that and you realize that the anxiety has taken over and that the overwhelm or everything seems too large, it's really good. Once you realize you're at that point, it's a it's a really big shift or a big monumental moment that says, "Oh, okay, I've lost control of this." You don't know this. Sometimes we don't know this until we have that actual epiphany that things are out of control, and we might be spending days or weeks in anxiety without realizing that something has taken us over. And as I said, there can be external stimuli that has slowly crept in. And what happens? Again, this is my understanding of it as I've done my when I do my own meditation or connection to the higher guidance or higher healing energies, to have an understanding. I talk to my own guides about, or guidance about, um, what can happen, or how does this occur. And this is what I've been shown or been helped to understand, is that when we have those little micro moments or shifts and changes in energy that we're not even consciously aware of, we slowly start to remove our attention to our own personal needs and begin to pull cords out to our external environment. We start to search for the source of the discomfort because we want to uh, preempt any danger. It becomes like a survival thing. We want to preempt any danger, even though it's not danger. Our senses tell us that something's not okay, and so we start to shoot energy cords out to everything in our environment. As I said, for myself personally, I have learned. I don't know how it's just happened to me organically, where in shopping centres or at music festivals, end up having that shield around me, and perhaps it's come from doing the work that I do. But when it comes to personal situations, it can creep up on me before I'm aware of it. So you realise that there's some sort of shift, or what do they say? There's a ripple in the force, and so you start to shoot the energy cords out and think, oh, you don't even. Sorry, it's an unconscious thing. They're micro changes, and before you realise that you're on hyper alert for a perceived danger, and all of a sudden you are having other energy fed into your personal space, and you lose sight of what's your own feelings. The anxiety builds because there are no answers for that interference, because it's not your issue, it's somebody else's issue, and so then it tends to compound itself, and before we know it, we are flooded with anxiety and no easy solution or way through. There's no answer to it. So when you understand that you have anxiety but no answer, then you have been affected by external stimuli. So when it gets to that point, and as I said, when we reach that tipping point, when we realize that it's out of control and hang on, it's not us, then we can start to do something about it. But when you are anxious and are not, sometimes we can realize that we are anxious, but not ready to take on that next step of moving towards regaining our power. And there's not really a great deal that you can do other than basically treading water. Um, so we'll talk about that next. But first of all, we're going to talk about reaching that tipping point when you realize, okay, hang on, I've lost control. It's not me. What can I do? It's a little bit more detailed than just catching it, nipping it in the bud at the beginning. So the next step is, first of all, reach out. First of all, find somebody that you can talk to that you trust, to say, this is all happening, not for somebody to fix it, but when you can hear all the things that are bothering you, you can then make some decisions around what it actually belongs to you and what doesn't. It's almost like sorting through and untangling all the threads that all mix up together. It's an untangling that helps you to understand what's yours and what's not. Because when you have your own things and understand what's your own stuff, very easy to manage. And when you realize that it's somebody else's, then you can start to cut those cords and send it back. Now, the next thing that you can do in that respect is then begin some self-healing. And again, it's about pulling all of your energy back, all the unconscious cords that you have sent out, start pulling them back. And that becomes a daily ritual, sometimes even a moment by moment ritual, that when you come to that realization and the anxiety will pop up again, you make a decision in that moment. Is this my anxiety? If I have an answer for it, I can move forward. If I don't, I can cut the cord. And it's simply by, you can do little recitations of affirmations or prayers. I know I have some of those little things on my vickyhassels.com blog. I have a couple of little prayers and protection things that you can use if you would like a reference for something like that or something helpful. The other thing that we can do in that moment is, again, we can do the distraction technique. But then when you're in high anxiety, distraction techniques don't always work. They can work sometimes to stop the immediate anxiety, but they don't actually help. They don't keep it away long term. It does require a lot of work of very slowly shifting and winding back all of those energy cords and giving your attention back to yourself again, and consciously deciding what you're going to be concerned with and what you're going to let go. Now, the third thing I wanted to talk about, as I realized as we were having a chat about this, is what do you do when you're in the middle of it and you've got all of this anxiety around you and you're not really ready to start to take care of yourself. You still think that you're in danger and that there's something that you can fix and how, what can I do? And nothing's working and it's just getting worse and worse. But you realize that you're anxious and that you realize that it's out of your control. More often than not, when this is the case, then there is a shift of a value or a belief that no longer suits you, and you're not ready to understand that you've let that go. You're not ready to actually. I think you've already let it go. You're not ready to admit that you've let that go and that you're ready to move on from that. So there's something that's shifted and changed in your life. You're not ready to admit it to yourself, and you're going to continue to try and maintain it in your life and bring it and can recreate it constantly. And because it's not working, it creates that overwhelm or that anxiety. There's not a great deal that you can do in that situation other than, I guess, talk, definitely. You could come and do some, in that moment, it's really like regular talking it through, even if nothing resolves, just releasing that energy in that moment. I always like Reiki for that sort of thing, simply because Reiki energy, and again, I'm not sure how this happens, but I just know from working with clients that after at least 3 sessions, you form a detachment from whatever it is that's creating the anxiety. And then when you have it attached, or like a detached or arm's length perspective, then you can step into that second step that we talked about by pulling that energy back and deciding. You can then make conscious decisions about what you want to worry about. And then you can wind it back to the first part where you can, once you start realizing when those things are starting to affect you, you can nip it in the bud straight away. So I will, so thanks for joining me. Not much discussion tonight, but that's okay. I always quite enjoy it when there's discussion. But Connie's here, so I'll give you Connie, if you're still with me, I will give you a quick energy reading on what it means for overwhelming for you. I'll just tune into your energy. Let's have a look. Oh, where's your energy, Connie? Just bear with me. I'm just going to find you out there. Oh, I see what, like for you, Connie, when it comes to energy and like when it comes to overwhelm, you're at the moment in that category of still trying to wind back or take. I've just got that, uh, whether it's happening at the moment, you don't have that detached sense. You've got that sort of still in denial sense. So when overwhelm or anxiety, once you realize you're in the middle of it, you'll still be in that space of winding things back. Sorry, of trying to manage or control it, rather than realizing that something's actually gone. You're trying to bring something back that doesn't exist anymore. So that's where your energy is at the moment. So I'd say that right now, what's going on in your life is that you've shifted and changed something in your belief system, not ready to let it go. And there's nothing wrong. There's all stages, right? There's nothing wrong with being in that space. We certainly must feel safe before we let something go. And that's the space that you're in at the moment. So, as I said, we have, I have, there are resources on my blog site of little prayers and affirmations, protection exercises that you can do. And if you would like to tomorrow night, you've still got time to register or to join me. Oh, Connie says, yes, I'm here. Thank you, Holly. That on Wednesday, tomorrow night, at 7 p.m., it starts at 6:45, but all admissions are shutting at 7. I'm doing a Reiki share. It's only $6. You can turn up, and I'll just be running a Reiki healing session. It's all very quiet. I'll be using Reiki symbols, Reiki energy. You can come along and have a healing. I'll be doing that every fortnight. You can look for the links if you miss out tomorrow. It'll be on again in a fortnight's time anyway, but I'll do a little bit more advertising with that. Every Monday night at 7 p.m. I have a paid event it's advertised on my website. We're doing psychic development and tarot and oracle practice. There's a couple of immersion packages if you want to join in and want to have a taste of everything if you like. If you really want to deep dive into your psychic ability, that's certainly the place to go. Very small classes when it comes to the psychic development tarot, and where you get personal one-on-one attention, and I'll be helping you if you're a psychic or a tarot reader. I'll be helping you with feedback and how to fine-tune and really make it count the messages that you want to deliver. Oh, Lauren's here as well. Laurel, I should say. Hi, Laurel. I'll do a little quick reading for you as well, Laurel, before we go, and then I'm going to wind this up. Thanks for joining me. Let's just tune in. We're talking about overwhelm, Laurel, and how it affects us emotionally. So I'm going to check in with your heart. Let's see. Oh, Laurel, actually, you're in a good space at the moment. I got this more so that with people that you're interacting with at the moment, you are good at deflecting any sort of overwhelm or empathic energy that you're working with. So it comes at you and then you put it to one side. So you're dealing with it a little bit later. You don't let things overwhelm you. It doesn't always necessarily mean that you're dealing with things in the moment, which is, again, perfectly fine. But when we're talking about overwhelm and being an empath, you're not shooting those cords out straight away. So that's good. You're putting it to one side so that you can deal with it later. Anyway, thank you for listening. And if you're watching the replay, thanks for watching. Otherwise, my name's Vicki Hassels, the traveling tarot teacher, the conscious mystic. Have a look up on my website now for all the new classes that are on show. Sign up for my newsletter. It'll be out Thursday, I think, now, with all the new bits and pieces. And you're welcome, Laurel. And I will see you tomorrow night. Will be a little pre-recorded. Actually, no, tomorrow night, if you want to join me on here and Spiritual Events Directory, I'm going to do 8:30, 1 hour of readings. I'm just filling in for somebody, one of the other hosts on Spiritual Events Directory, but I'll also show it up on here as well. I'll also put up a little pre-recorded meditation chat. I'll stream it up there as well for tomorrow. And otherwise, Thursday, as usual, is our psychic development. Much love to you all. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. And bye, with love.